Artificial intelligence is changing how we work, how we learn, how we make decisions. But the bigger question for today isn't whether AI is smart, it's whether we're still thinking for ourselves. In today's episode, we're going to explore the idea that AI isn't the enemy. Outsourcing our thinking could be. Maybe that's the question.
Right.
And to dig into this, we have regular guest Dean Mercado, who knows a thing or two about AI, and he's going to put it out plain for us today, I think, Dean. So, welcome back to the program.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. I'm so glad to be here with you once again. And yes, folks, I am coming right between the eyes here today. So, are we ready?
I do want to mention one little thing about today's topic, and then we'll turn it over to you and get your thoughts, being the bad
Sure.
guy you are and laying out the truth. But this topic today, I think a term I came across, I read it, is called cognitive offloading. And I think about that, Dean. We've been doing that for years. I did a little research and it's the mapping. We no longer use the road atlas. Text generation, even making decisions, getting prompts to tell us what to do. Our thermostats, I can control my thermostat right here as we talk, and I can set it and do all these crazy things, and it'll give me reports on that. So I don't know, Dean. Are we using AI too much? Are we getting dumber? I guess that's what we're going to talk about.
Yes. Is AI making us dumber? I'm just going to flat out say it. Yeah, it is. Um, I believe it is anyway, but maybe not the way that most people think. So hear me out a little bit here. When you brought this topic to me first, Jeff, the first thing that popped in my mind was a movie called Idiocracy. Idiocracy was a movie that came out about 2006 by a guy named Mike Judge. He's just for perspective, he's the guy who did like Beavis and Butthead and Office Space. So real crazy comedy, right? Now, the premise of this movie was basically that this guy is an army guy, whatever. He goes in a special project. They shoot him ahead in the future 500 years, and he ends up in this world where even though he was kind of an average guy, not very smart, in 500 years from now, he was the smartest guy on the planet, right? And that was really scary. Now, I invite all of you to watch this because it's not necessarily the movie is funny. Yeah, watch it for that. Mike Judge, the guy who did this movie, he said something that's what really keyed my interest here. He said something along the lines that while this started out as satire, he almost started looking at it like it was a documentary. And that was really scary. And when I heard that, I was like, yeah. When I watched the movie, I see it. When you talk about the dumbing down of humanity, oh, yeah, we can clearly see it. And we're seeing signs of it all around. And Jeff, you pointed out really important there, how we're offloading all of this cognitive stuff now. Great in a way, but extremely dangerous in another. And I'll dive a little bit more deeply into that. Now, I've spent over 20,000 hours coaching very smart people over the years. So I'm a little biased in certain areas, but let me also be clear about this. I'm a big fan of AI, a huge fan. I use it every day. I teach it. I help businesses implement it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But I'm also living in reality where I understand that, and I'm also very intentional about helping people understand, and warn them how they use it. If they're using it to outsource their judgment, not a good thing, right? Then why do we need you? So when we start hearing all that craziness about, oh, well, AI is going to take over and everyone's going to lose their job. Well, yeah, if you let it, if you're going to offload everything, why are you here? So I understand that people might approach this thinking that I'm doing things and I'm getting better, faster, cheaper out of this, right? But when you abdicate your judgment, danger zone, right? Don't give up your ability to think, to decide, to evaluate, at least not voluntarily. Now, I'm already seeing it. I mentioned I did all of that coaching and I do all that coaching. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it where clients can't even write a damn email anymore, where they have to have AI write it for them because they don't know what to say. That's really scary to me. I mean, you run a business, and many of you a seven-figure business, eight-figure business, some of you. How do you not know what to say? Now can you use it to help you tighten up what you say? Absolutely. But you've got to drive what you're creating, not let a tool, a technology drive it for you. Because then again, why do we need you? Why are you the CEO of this company when you can't write an email? And I'm being harsh. I know that. But that's the reality of it. And email's not the only thing I see out there. It's like every decision I'm seeing people make, let me check with ChatGPT first. Really? What did you do 3 years ago? How did you make a decision then? So this is a slippery slope, Jeff. And I've actually named this slippery slope. I call it the three-phase dumbing down of humanity. And I don't say that lightly because remember, I'm a huge fan of AI because AI makes things better, faster, cheaper. Better, faster, cheaper. It does. Right? So phase one is what I call lazy. It's making us lazy where I don't want to do that. Let AI will just do it for me. Okay, that's fine. That's the phase one of this. Phase two sets in. That's what we call dependence. All of a sudden, we depend on this thing where we can't. It's not just that we're being lazy, but I need AI to do this now. Oh, I can't decide that now. I got to wait till I get access to my computer with ChatGPT. And then we go into phase three, right? Was what I call ignorance. And that's what happened in Idiocracy, the movie, where your dependence turns into ignorance, where you just don't know how to do anything anymore. So you almost become useless. I hate to say it that way, folks, but that's what it is, right? I want you to think of all of this as your ability to make decisions, your ability to make judgment calls on things. These are muscles. When you fail to act and fail to exercise a muscle, Jeff, what happens to that muscle? Right? Starts to wither and die. It atrophies. That's what we got to be very, very careful here. So the three-phase dumbing down of humanity is what I'm talking about there. Lazy, dependent, ignorant. Be very careful. Now, the far end of the spectrum warning real quick. The movie Terminator, right? That's a different tone, a different genre, but it's the same warning. When humans abdicate too much thinking, too much judgment, too much responsibility, humanity becomes unnecessary. Ooh, I know that stings a little bit, but that's the reality, right? I'm not saying we're headed for Terminator. At least I hope not. But both movies are asking the same question. At what point did we stop thinking and start surrendering? And that's where you got to be very conscious here, folks. So now, the goal isn't to stop using AI. That's not the goal here. The goal is to use it in a way that keeps us capable, makes us more of what we already are, right? It starts with one single principle. That principle is what I say, humans do the critical thinking, AI does the heavy lifting. Repeat it after me, folks. Humans do the critical thinking, AI does the heavy lifting. Now, I want to call us back, Jeff, to an episode you and I did about probably 10 months ago. I think it was called something like 6 Ways to Use AI or something like that. And I introduced a framework I called Tickle, right? With a crazy mnemonic. Timmy's crazy cat always ate lasagna, right? Well, the first element of Tickle was thinking. Thinking. That's the critical human thinking part, right? So we got to protect that thinking muscle. So I've got a little formula for you real quick to do that, folks. So it's not all doom and gloom here today. Here's how you get past it. It's what I call the 10-80-10 rule. This is what I implement in my business. It's what I give my high-end coaching clients, and they follow it as well. First 10%, that's the critical human thinking. So whatever you're trying to solve, that first 10% of your effort to solving it comes from you. You've got to think it through. I approach this what I call the 5 W's plus H. The who, what, when, where, why, and how. Right? Answer all those questions. That's what you're feeding into your AI. So, what do I want? Why do I want it? Why do I need it now? Why is it important now? Right? When will I know when I get it? What does success look like? In other words, these are the kinds of things you got to think through. Don't let AI decide that for you. That's craziness. You're not going to have a sustainable business if that's what you do. So we do the first 10%. Then the next 80% is you use AI as a thinking partner. This is where AI shines, folks. You use it for brainstorming, reflection and improvement. You use it for strategic planning, stress testing systems and processes. Yeah, I use it for all of that. I use it to help me organize my thinking, right? So I can actually clean up the craziness going on in here because sometimes I got a lot of things cooking. So, but it helps me get it out of my brain and onto a canvas that we can massage. And AI is great for that, right? But it's still my thinking. And that's what I want you to understand. It's still coming from me. I'm not saying, well, what do I do? No, I'm telling it what I'm doing. Help me get there. Better, faster, cheaper. So I use it in my article writing, my video creation, my podcast ideation, year-end reflection, my planning. I use it everywhere. But I start with the first 10% being me. Then there's the final 10%, and that's the human ownership. Whatever you create, you got to own it. You got to be able to explain it. You got to be able to stand behind it. You got to be able to climb into whatever comes out of AI, edit it, clean it up, make it you. Make sure it's you, I should say, before you put anything out there. It's your reputation. It's your brand. AI doesn't care if your brand gets damaged. You will, though, when all of a sudden nobody wants to hire you, right? So be very careful what you put out there. So that's the 10, 80, 10, right? So in closing, real here, Jeff, real quick, AI is not the enemy, folks, right? Abdication is. How you're going about this is the problem, not necessarily the tool. Don't kill the tool. Kill the way you're using it, maybe, right? The future is going to belong to people who can think clearly and who can use these powerful tools. So remember this. Once again, I'll leave you with this. Humans do the critical thinking. AI does the heavy lifting. Humans do the critical thinking. AI does the heavy lifting. And with that said, Jeff, I turn it back to you.
You want to do the critical thinking, but I think people are reversing that, Dean,
Yeah, they
at
are.
times. Not everybody, but
Yeah, I know. And
to
that's
to
the
to
really,
rely on the AI tool to do the initial critical thinking is a mistake. But I think when you said that, I was thinking about your comment about the emails and how AI is writing people's emails. I've never done that. I can't imagine if you do it, that's on you. But I think I could probably sniff out an AI generated email sent to me, and I'm going to think it's junk mail.
yeah. I mean, at times, absolutely.
Mhm.
I mean, people are so lazy and dumb around this. I mean, I received an email from a client. I'm not going to reveal who it is.
Good. You'd
And
lose that
clearly the
client.
email was written by AI because they left AI, AI always ends with certain things. They left those pieces in there. And it's like, come on, man. You know, you run a nice high seven-figure business. Are you serious? You didn't even read this,
So
and
let me
then you're
guess.
sending it to me.
It said, would you like to say this to Dean? Or I could add these ideas to share
Yes,
with Dean.
exactly. Exactly, right? Or if you see, sometimes I've even seen emails that are speaking about that person who sent the email in the third person. It's like, ooh, not a
Mm.
good thing, folks. So when I talked about that last 10%, you got to own it. That's part of what I mean.
Yeah.
You got to at least read what you're putting together. You got to buy into it. You got to believe it. You got to stand behind it. If you can't, then don't send it. Are you kidding me? You know, but you know,
Yeah. Yeah. I have one last question for you. Uh,
sure, shoot.
you might have touched on this a bit, but when people hear that AI may be taking away their thinking ability, which we hear that, what do you, Dean, actually want them to question about their own habits and decision making?
Ooh, I mean, that's a great question, and that's a tough question. Um, I mean, as far as never abdicate your thinking, everything's got to begin from you. Even that's it's got to emanate from inside. If you're a great CEO, that's where you want it coming from. I mean, yes, it's okay if you can get an idea sparked by AI, but then you run with it. You start adding your spin, your flavor. What does that look like for you? Um, it's just, Jeff, my biggest fear is that cognitive offloading that you
Mhm.
mentioned right at the beginning. It's scary. And I'm seeing the best of the best business owners out there abdicating very easily. Not even like, where 10 years ago, I feel like they would have never done it. They would never have brought on a C-level executive into their company and let that person make all the judgment calls and decisions without properly vetting.
Mhm.
You're doing that with AI.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Why?
we're all doing the cognitive offloading. I think back to we've talked about this phone numbers, 20, 30 years ago, I knew everyone's phone numbers. Now I know two.
I know. Yeah, I
It's
know.
just it's part of life, spell check, maybe taking away people's ability to learn how to spell words correctly. Now I use the grammar tools. I use Grammarly, we use Copilot to
Sure.
check our work, but I think with that question I just asked you, one question I would ask myself is when does AI step in? Because to me, it needs to step in after the creative thinking, the initial, here's my plan, and then which tool am I going to use to get that done? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I tie back into the 10-80-10 rule. That
Okay.
first 10% is mission critical. If that first 10% goes well, then your use of AI will go better.
Hmm.
If that 10% doesn't happen, then you've removed yourself from the equation and you're not necessary. If I could go into AI and I could pose the same challenge you're facing and get the same answer you're getting, chances are you're not needed. Why am I paying you a heavy salary? How long do you think you'll be able to own that company
Yeah, it's a good
before
point.
you're not needed?
Hmm.
And that's not the ideal thing, in my opinion. I know a lot of people want to create a business that can run without them. Fantastic. But not where you're abdicating your genius.
Hmm.
You have to maintain your genius. And as a legacy, you're leaving that genius behind, for your team. You trained your team up to revolve around that genius. That's what the company's built on. As soon as or if you don't bring that forward, then you're depending on something or someone else's genius. That's dangerous because then it's not your company anymore. It's not your way of doing things. So the 10-80-10, folks, that first 10%, I can't stress it enough. It's very tempting to get lazy, but you will find very quickly that you become dependent. And then you'll find very quickly that you become ignorant, right? And once you're ignorant, you are not needed anymore. And that's not a good place to be, right? For you, for humanity, right? So the dumbing down of humanity. Hate to be the one to bring the news. Don't kill the messenger, though, folks. Be
Dean,
smart.
it's been a great episode. Thank you for not offending all of our audience today.
You're very welcome.
I'll see you on the next one.